Thank you to Andrew for creating this challenge for us. Over at Superbite Supermarket, they're worried that some of the managers may not have been paid their correct amount over all of their time. So in our first input, we've got a list of the names and their salaries. And then in the second input, we've got more information about them as employees. So when did they start? When did they finish? And so on and so forth. So in order to join these two data sets together, if we take a look at the names here, then we see that some of them aren't all kind of correctly formatted how we might like them to be. So say for example this one is all in lowercase, this one's all in uppercase. We want them all to be in title case basically, so that that all gets fixed. And so we can use a calculated field here. We can just call it the same thing that it's already called, so call it name. This little warning appears, but that's just because we're going to overwrite that field. And we can use the proper function, so that helps us to get title case, as you can see in the example over here. And we just put the name function inside that, and that will fix all of our issues with our names. So I would press save if I wanted to save this calculation, but I've actually already done that in this step here, and you can see that all those issues we had have all been resolved, and so now we're ready to join those two data sets together. So to create this join step, I just pick up the view step from 10 years and go up towards the other clean step where we made the title case for those names, and that little icon appears that means that I can join those two data sets together. And that creates this join step here. So you can see that I've got 16 rows in each of my data sets, and they are all finding their match perfectly, which is great. We have this now this duplication of our joining field, which is our name. So you can see that the second one is going to get renamed to name-1. So I'll just go and remove that field in this step here. So literally just coming to the field that I want to remove, right-clicking and saying remove to get rid of it, so that I only have 7 fields coming out of this join now. Okay, now we want to think about that end date. So our end date at the moment currently isn't coming in as a date field. So that's because some employees still work for us. Of course, you're always going to have that. So we want to change this to a date data type rather than a string. And something quite clever happens with the current there. So if we go to change it to a date data type, then it updates to today's date, which that's really cool. I didn't know about that before this challenge, so thank you, Andrew. But then, of course, I'm recording this on a date before the challenge gets released, so for my case, I'm just going to change this so it matches the output to be the 5th of June, I think is what we're supposed to be having it on as per the requirements. I think that will be the Wednesday, and so I can just make that change there. So that it gets changed. A word of warning: if you don't make this change to kind of hard code in what that value should get changed to, then any time that you kind of reopen this flow in the future, it's always going to change that current to today's date, which can be brilliant if that's what you want to happen, but not so good if you want to fix it in a certain place. So yeah, just be mindful of that and how that function is working. So I've actually made those data type changes in the next clean step, so I'm just going to get rid of those 2 changes that I just made, and you can see that those changes are reflected here. Although actually that isn't working, since I made this workflow a couple of days ago. You can see that that current got updated to the 28th of May, and so the 30th of May, which is the day today when I'm recording it, hasn't actually been changed. So this isn't actually the most effective way. Probably what I would actually recommend we do is create a calculated field for our end date to say that if the end date equals current, then we want it to say that 05/06/2024, else leave it as the end date. So the reason it's coming up with errors at the moment is because it's already a date data type, but I'm just going to move that calculated field above where we change it to a date. There we go. So yeah, Now we change it to a date data type, and it's reading it the wrong way round. It's reading it as an American format, so it's making it be May instead of June. So I'm going to replace this as being 2024-06-05. And then hopefully when that changes into a date, there we go, it changes to the 5th of June. Whew, live real-time figuring out how best to solve that problem there. But I think that's quite good actually to highlight how you need to be careful with that. If you are going to rely on current updating to today's date, is that still going to give you the output that you're looking for? Cool. So now we're going to work out the tenure for each member of staff. So we're going to use a date diff calculation to do that. So we take the number of days between the start date and the end date. And then we want to know their expected total salary, which just means that we need to know how many years they've worked for us and how much salary they would have gained in that time. So we're just dividing that tenure by 365 and multiplying it by the salary that they would receive for that time. So now we have their expected total salary. We can join that on to the amount that they have been paid, another table in the dataset, and that is just joining on the name again, removing that extra name field that comes through the join, and then doing a quick filter to see where our expected total salary is not equal to the amount that they have been paid. And that filter leaves us with these 3 rows, and then we're just removing fields before the output so that we're just keeping the name, the salary, their expected total salary, and their amount that they have been paid, so that we can see all those differences and outputting it to a location. So thank you very much for watching that. Thanks for the challenge, Andrew, and we'll see you for part 2 next week.